Namaskar. I'm Harpreet Kaur and I welcome you all to our live and interactive session. This is our special webinar series titled Listening to Learn, yani Sune aur Seekhein. Today we are in the 94th edition of this webinar series, and the topic of discussion that we have taken up today is 20 years of the great 2004 tsunami. Of course, we're sitting here after more than 20 years of that tsunami, and I clearly remember those details when it occurred, and of course I witnessed that entire incident on television as a teenager, but there's a lot more behind what we saw, and today in the session we will reveal all the details to you. Well, this particular session of ours, this special webinar series is brought to you by Department of Education in Science and Mathematics, NCERT, New Delhi, and Pravasi Bharati Academic Scientific Sampark. In collaboration with this organization, we are bringing you this series today, and this is all about our integrating Indian diaspora with the motherland. So, we present you this National Student Outreach Program, or our webinar series Listening to Learn. You are watching this webinar series on PNE Vidya channels 9, 10, 11 and 12, and also on our YouTube channel NCERT Official. Well, apart from our channels, we are also streaming live on the CSIR India YouTube handle as well as on their Facebook page. The session is live and interactive, which means you can give us a call or you can talk to our expert directly with your experiences, suggestions and feedback regarding the session. If you have any questions, please feel free to ask the same as well. Our phone number is 8800440559. And since we have different email IDs for you, but I'm telling you here one, you can take a note of the rest which are flashing on your screen. So this is dth.class12@ciet.nic.in. Last but not the least, we are streaming live on our YouTube channel NCERT Official. You can always go to the comment section and put in your questions there. We want you to definitely participate in the session. And apart from that, what I'm trying to tell you is that this is a very special webinar series that we often tell you. Why special? Because we have conducted so many sessions here and we have brought eminent personalities to our studio. So if you would like to watch our previous sessions, then there is a specific link for you, and that is ncert.nic.in/webinar_series.php. So today we have invited two guests in our studio, but I am introducing you to the man behind this entire initiative who will take this discussion forward and introduce our guest to all of us. So we are joined by Dr. Gagan Gupta from DESM NCERT. Sir, namaskar and very warm welcome to the session.
नमस्ते हरप्रीत दोस्तों, आज का हमारा 94th सेशन है. हमने अगस्त 2021 में इस सीरीज़ को प्रारंभ किया था CSIR इंडिया के साथ कोलैबोरेशन में. इनफैक्ट नेशनल ह्यूमन राइट कमीशन एंड CSIR ने मिलकर एक प्रोग्राम स्टार्ट किया था 2021 में, जिसका नाम मेरे साथी हरप्रीत ने बताया, प्रवासी भारतीय एकेडमिक एंड साइंटिफिक संपर्क प्रभास. इस प्रभास के अंदर हमारी कोशिश रही कि दुनिया भर से जो हिंदुस्तान के लोग हैं, साइंटिफिक लोग हैं, जो साइंस एंड टेक्नोलॉजी में काम करते हैं, उनको अपनी मदरलैंड से जोड़ने का प्रयास किया जाए. उसी क्रम में हमने काफ़ी प्रोग्राम किए और आज का कार्यक्रम भी उसी क्रम में है. आज हमारे साथ प्रोफेसर हर्ष गुप्ता CSIR NCRI से हमारे साथ हैं. मैं अभी आपकी उनसे मुलाकात कराऊंगा. और दोस्तों, हमने इस सीरीज़ में बहुत तरह के प्रोग्राम लिए हैं. हेल्थ से जुड़े हुए इश्यूज़, अब हम बहुत दिनों से समुद्र में रहे, अभी आगे भी थोड़े दिनों बाद में समुद्र में रहेंगे. हमने हेल्थ से जुड़े हुए इश्यूज़ में दिल की सैर कराई, आपको लंग्स की सैर कराई, पूरे गट सिस्टम्स की बात कराई, ऑर्गन डोनेशंस पर बात कराई, स्पेस प्रोग्राम पर हमने बात की, न्यूक्लियर प्रोग्राम पर हमने बात की, न्यूक्लियर फ्यूज़न प्रोग्राम पर पर्टिकुलरली प्रोग्राम पर बात की, बैटरीज आगे आने वाले दिनों में किस तरह की होंगी उस सब पर बात की. हमारी कोशिश रही कि हम इन सारे कार्यक्रमों को स्कूली शिक्षा के साथ जोड़ें, लेकिन स्कूली शिक्षा से थोड़ा सा क्लासरूम शिक्षा से, कक्षाओं से बाहर निकल कर के बात करें. और हमारा प्रयास रहा कि इस तरह के सब विषयों पर बात करें. आपके भी कुछ सुझाव हो, आप हमें ज़रूर भेजिए. आपके सुझाव हमें अक्सर मिलते रहते हैं, लगातार मिलते रहते हैं, जिनके बेसिस पर कि हम आगे आने वाले प्रोग्रामों की संरचना बनाते हैं और रूपरेखा बनाते हैं और उसके बेसिस पर कार्य करते हैं. आगे आज इस वर्ष 2024 का आखिरी कार्यक्रम है. आज दिल्ली का मौसम भी बड़ा अच्छा हो पड़ा है, बारिश हो रही है, लगभग 12 डिग्री सेंटीग्रेड तापमान है. और स्टूडियो में आज मेरे साथ हैं प्रोफेसर हर्ष गुप्ता सर। प्रोफेसर गुप्ता, आपका बहुत बहुत स्वागत है।
नमस्कार।
आपका साथ हमारे साथ लगातार बना रहता है, ये हमारे लिए बहुत गर्व की और बहुत अच्छी बात लगती है सर। दोस्तों, सर ने जुलाई 24 में यहाँ पर 24 जुलाई 2024 को एक सेशन दिया था जिसमें अर्थक्वेक रेसिलिएंट सोसाइटीज़ बनाने की बात की थी। ये सेशन आपको हमारे जो स्क्रीन पर लिंक फ्लैश हो रहा है उस पर देख सकते हैं। इसके साथ साथ ही अगर आप हमारी ऑफिशियल वेबसाइट ncert.nic.in के इवेंट सेक्शन में जाएंगे तो वहाँ पर भी मिलेंगे। वहाँ पर सारे सेशंस की रिकॉर्डिंग्स आपको मिलेंगी, आप उनको जरूर देखिएगा। आज उसी जो 24 जुलाई 2024 को सेशन सर ने दिया था, उसी क्रम में आज का सेशन है। और आज सर बात करेंगे हमारे साथ 20 ईयर्स आफ्टर द ग्रेट 2004 सुनामी। आज के इस सेशन में एम्फेसिस है कि 2004 की जो सुनामी आई थी उससे हमने क्या सीखा, उसके बाद में हमने क्या क्या किया, और इन सब विषयों पर आप बात करेंगे। सर बात करेंगे। आप अपने प्रश्न आप हमें ज़रूर भेजिए, हम उन प्रश्नों को कार्यक्रम के सेशन के आखिर में लेने का पूरा प्रयास करेंगे। और अब मैं आपकी मुलाकात कराता हूँ एक बार फिर से प्रोफेसर हर्ष गुप्ता से। प्रोफेसर हर्ष गुप्ता इज़ करेंटली द INSA इंडियन नेशनल साइंस एकेडमी सीनियर साइंटिस्ट एट द Council of Scientific and Industrial Research, National Geophysical Research Institute, popularly called CSIR NGRI, Hyderabad. Professor Gupta is the President of the Geological Society of India and a member of the Atomic Energy Regulatory Board, Government of India. He has also been the visiting professor and advisor to the universities of Hamburg and Paris Sud, US Geological Survey, and advisor and consultant of UNESCO, International Science Council, International Atomic Energy Agency, and the Commonwealth Science Council. Professor Gupta has been a member of the National Disaster Management Authority, India, Secretary to the Government of India, Ministry of Earth Sciences, Director, National Geophysical Research Institute, Hyderabad, Vice Chancellor, Cochin University of Science and Technology, Director, Center for the Earth Science Studies, Thiruvananthapuram, Professor, University of Texas at Dallas. Professor Gupta has also been the President of the International Union of Geology and Geophysics and the Asia-Oceania Geosciences Society. He is globally known for discovering 65 to 70 kilometer thick crust below Himalayas and Tibet Plateau, developing criteria to discriminate artificial water reservoir triggered earthquakes from normal earthquakes, setting up of India's first permanent station in Antarctica in a record time of one Antarctic summer. Sir has talked about this Antarctica mission in his last session here. Chairing the steering committee of Global Seismic Hazard Program, where nearly 500 scientists worked globally to produce global seismic hazard map. Professor Gupta has also been involved in setting up of Indian Ocean Tsunami Warning System after the disastrous 2004 Sumatra earthquake of magnitude 9.2. About this he is going to talk a lot today. Professor Gupta has also been associated in planning and editing Encyclopedia of Solid Earth Geophysics first edition and in 2011 and second edition in 2021 published by the Springer. Professor Gupta has been conferred with several prestigious awards including the Shanti Sarup Bhatnagar Award in 1983, National Mineral Award for Excellence 2002, Padma Shri in 2006, Waldo Smith Award 2008, Oxford Medal by Asia-Oceania Geosciences Society 2016, National Lifetime Excellence Award by the Ministry of Earth Sciences, India 2022, International Association of Seismology and Physics for the Earth's Interior IASPI Medal 2023, I beg your pardon please, and many more. We are thankful to CSIR India, NGRI and Prabhas for collaborating, consistently collaborating with NCERT in organizing this program. And once again, we welcome you, Professor Gupta, to our studios, and it's all yours now.
A very good morning, and I'm very grateful for this kind invitation. Harpreet Kaur did a wonderful job of introducing the topics and things like that, followed by Gagan. and I'm going to share what all has happened. Now, I'll just like to take you back to 26th of December 2004. It is 9:30 in the morning. It's a pleasant morning on Marina Beach in Chennai, and people are walking on the beach. They are seeing the sun and everything beautiful. Suddenly, the sun recedes, and they don't know why the sun has receded, why the sea has receded. So they walk in to pick up shells and fish and things like that, without realizing that this receding of the sea was because due to a tsunami, and the trough of the tsunami had hit the coast first. Within the next 20-30 minutes time, the peak arrives and several people lost their lives. So that was a horrific thing. In 2004, most people in India did not know what a tsunami is.
Yes.
And from that stage, India has graduated to having established one of the best tsunami warning system for the Indian Ocean, that is not only helping India, but is helping all the Indian Ocean rim countries. And we are really proud of doing it indigenously. So today in my talk, I shall cover several topics which will include the beginning of the science of tsunami, and then I'll take you back to the 1755 Luzon tsunami, which was one of the deadliest.
Okay.
After that, I'll tell you a few basic things about the tsunami, what they are, how they get generated, and then we'll talk about the Sumatra earthquake and setting up the Indian tsunami early warning system. Then we'll also briefly visit 2011 Fukushima tsunami in Japan, and finally I'll conclude by informing that Indian tsunami early warning system is considered to be among the best in the world. Now, let me just refresh our memory. You see, earthquakes occur all the time, but the great earthquakes, which are of magnitude 1 and above, they occur only about once every year. As the size of the earthquake decreases, the number increases. Normally, magnitude 6 and above earthquakes are damaging. We are about 120 every year. But when you come to very small earthquakes, they are almost 1,000 per day, which don't make any impact on the lives. Now, one thing very important is that this earthquake magnitude scale is little deceptive. It is logarithmic scale, and by increase of 1 magnitude, the energy release increases by 31 times. One way of understanding the earthquake magnitude is that we all know about the Hiroshima kind bomb. So that Hiroshima bomb had energy equivalent to 1/6 magnitude earthquake. So when we are talking of a 7 magnitude earthquake, we are talking of 31 Hiroshima bomb, 31 into 31, and when we are talking about magnitude 9 earthquake, we are talking of almost 40,000 Hiroshima kind of bombs going one after other. So you can imagine the enormity of the energy released during these earthquakes. Now, just a short review of the earthquakes that have occurred in the century from 2012 to 2011. I have stopped at 2011 because the last magnitude 9 earthquake occurred there. So in this one century, there were 5 magnitude 9 earthquakes that accounted for 40% of the total energy released by earthquakes globally. When you go to magnitude 8 to 9, another 40% goes in that, and then as you get to smaller earthquakes, M6 earthquakes, although they are 120 in a year, they only amount for 4 to 5% of energy released globally. So tsunamis are one of the worst natural calamities. The 26th December 2004 tsunami, which was of magnitude 9.2, it claimed estimated 250,000 human lives in East, South and Southeast Asia. And then the 2011 tsunami in Japan, it created a nuclear emergency in addition to claiming some 20,000 human lives. So let me take you back to Lisbon to 1755. At that time, Lisbon was one of the most beautiful cities in the world, and it was something what Paris was a few years ago. All Europeans thronged Lisbon, visited Lisbon for fashion and everything else, especially people from Germany and England. And Saturday, the 1st November 1755, was a All Saints Day, and the Lisbon population is mostly Catholic, and everyone was in the church, and there was a first shock at 9:30 a.m. in the morning. The buildings cracked and stronger shocks followed, and it was told it is the wrath of the god. The magnitude of the earthquake was around 9 estimated. At that time, in Lisbon, 90,000 lives were lost. About 10,000 lives were lost in Morocco. Now imagine the population of Lisbon in 1755 was only about 260,000. So 1/3 population perished. Now imagine if that happens today, because today Lisbon's population has grown to 2.8 million. So if such an earthquake occurs there, what would happen is anyone's imagination. I am also taking you back to the 18th century, which was characterized by religious wars. They were just over, and there was a huge desire among people to feel good, to feel philosophically and otherwise that it is the best thing that could happen now. That was also a time that Isaac Newton, who was there from 42 to 1727, he had discovered the laws of gravity, and he had started telling about how the planets move. They were forecasted and they were estimated, their movements were estimated. So this Lisbon earthquake shattered that dream, that thought that it is the best world to live. And that was also the time when there was a lot of huge confusion whether it is a wrath of the god or it is a scientific thing, it is a natural thing, it is a natural phenomena. Immanuel Kant published the first paper in 1756, which is the first paper on earthquake, saying the earthquake which shook the end of 1755th year large parts of the earth. So that, I believe, is the beginning of seismology. The then Prime Minister of Portugal, Marcos de Pombal, was given the responsibility of reconstruction, etc. So he distributed a questionnaire which had very interesting questions. At what time the earthquake began and how long the earthquake lasted? Did you perceive the shock to be greater from one direction or the other direction? Did the buildings seem to fall in one direction or other direction? How many people died? Did the sea rose first and fell down, etc., etc. So these questions, questionnaire was circulated, answers were captured, collected, and people have reinterpreted those answers to estimate that the magnitude was 9 plus and where the earthquake epicenter was. Also, these historical documents are all stored in a place and people still visit them to learn about that. In a summary, 1755 is said to be the beginning of seismology on this earth. So what happened after that? The chief engineer of Lisbon proposed 3 options to the king: rebuild the old city by repairing the damage, widening of certain streets, and third option was raising the entire Baxia quarter which was destroyed by tsunami and rebuild it. That was also the time that Portugal had conquered Brazil and they had brought shipload of gold. So money was not a problem. So they opted for the third option and the whole place was raised. This is just a carving by Germans, and carving that how the people were living after the tsunami in the tents because everything was destroyed and things like that. This is one of the ruins of that tsunami which is still preserved, and I am going to show you a beautiful building built at that time, Parco di Comércio. This is a place which was built after 1755 and is a center of attraction in Lisbon. Anyone who goes to Lisbon visits this place. So now let me tell a little bit more about tsunami. What is a tsunami? Actually, what happens that earthquakes keep on occurring all over the globe. Whenever an earthquake occurs below a sea bed, and there is a vertical displacement of the bed, then the entire water column gets displaced, and this displaced water column vibrates and moves out, and that is what causes a tsunami. And normally we have got three kind of faults. One is called the normal fault, in which this is the hanging wall. So this is the fault plane. Hanging wall is on the above of it, and football is below it. In a normal faulting, the hanging wall comes down. Then there is a strike slip faulting, in which there is no vertical motion, and the one block slips past the other one. And there is a thrust faulting, in which the hanging wall goes up the football. So, in normal faulting and thrust faulting, there is a vertical displacement. When this vertical displacement, as I told you, reaches the ocean bottom and displaces the water, the tsunami gets generated. This is just a sketch which shows that in a subducting block, because the oceanic lithosphere is being subducted below the continental sphere, there are some blocks which do not slip. So, that amounts into accumulation of strain at certain blocks, and when this accumulated strain exceeds the strength of those blocks, the rupture takes place and there is an earthquake, and then, as I told you, a tsunami is generated when this earthquake generates a vertical displacement in the ocean. Now, tsunamis travel very fast in the open ocean, and their speed could be up to 700 km/h, but as they come closer to the shore, the column of water available for them to progress recedes. So, the energy gets converted into height. Actually, tsunami is a nihongo, a Japanese word meaning a harbor wave. Why it is called a harbor wave? In the open ocean, tsunamis have very small amplitude. The 26th December tsunami had amplitude of only about 20 centimeter, and whereas there are waves which are 10-20 meters in the open ocean. So, Japanese fishermen, they used to go out for fishing in the open ocean, and they have seen no tsunami. When they come home, their homes are destroyed, because as they reach the coast, the amplitude keeps on increasing. The largest tsunamis recorded have amplitudes of up to 80 meters. So, this is what happened at that time. Then there is one word, inundation, which we will use very often. Inundation is the amount of, or the distance to which the tsunami impacts and gets into the shoreline. And then other word we use is run up. Run up is to the height to which a tsunami will affect an area. So, 26 December tsunami was the most destructive tsunami. Over 2,500 people were killed, and there were unprecedented financial losses. I already told you about the Marina Beach, and this is the scene of the Marina Beach when the trough has arrived. So, the sea has receded, and you can see people walking all over the sea where they would have never walked in, and then the crest came and did all the destruction. This is after the crest arrives. Now, after this tsunami, you see, till that time there was no tsunami warning system available for the Indian Ocean, and the reason was that in the 20th century there were close to 800 small and large tsunamis in the Indian Ocean, whereas there were only 2 tsunamis in the Indian Ocean. So, I am showing you the Pacific. In this Pacific Ocean, there were close to 800 tsunamis and only 2 tsunamis in the Indian Ocean. The reason is this, that almost 75% of earthquake energy is released on earthquakes on the Pacific coast. About 20% of energy is released by the earthquakes in the alpine zone, and 5% is from so-called the intracontinental earthquakes. Now, till 2004, we were used to depend on the tsunami warnings issued by Pacific Tsunami Warning System and also by the Japan Meteorological Agency Tsunami Warning System. And their compulsion is this, that tsunamis are occurring very close to the shore, and when they are occurring very close to the shore, the earthquake occurs and tsunami arrives. The earthquake occurs and tsunami arrives. So, they issue a warning as soon as earthquake occurs, and people vacate the shoreline and then they withdraw it, they come back. So, this is a very common thing. Whereas for our Indian coast, the question was very different. There was a proposal to Government of India from Pacific Tsunami Warning System as well as from JMA to set up a tsunami warning system for the Indian Ocean at a cost of 1,000 crores in 2004. This was not acceptable to me. I was that time the Secretary of Ministry of Earth Sciences now and then Department of Ocean Development. The reason was that there were several occasions on which a alarm, a warning was issued for a tsunami, and on one particular day I was traveling from Chennai to Delhi. When I reached my home, that time cell phones were not that common, so my wife said that there have been a lot of phones, and the phones were about a tsunami because a magnitude 8.5 earthquake had occurred very close to the 2004 tsunami for Sumatra earthquake. So I called my counterpart in Jakarta and he said, sir, there is no tsunami. This was a strike slip earthquake, so no tsunami is generated. But the tsunami warning had glued people to the television, and all these people who had called me, I went back to tell them that there is no tsunami, but they were not interested in that information. Because by this time everyone, the whole Southeast Asia was glued to television and they are showing advertisements, etc., etc. So I was somehow determined that this should not happen to India. So what we discovered, that as far as India is concerned, Indian Ocean is concerned, there are only two zones which can host a tsunamigenic earthquake. One is from Java, Sumatra to Andaman Nicobar, stretch of 4,000 kilometers, and other is Makaran coast, a small area of 500 kilometer radius. So I had this information, and we had a meeting of International Oceanography Commission. These meetings are in parliamentary style, and every country has got alphabetically a seat, and persons, they sit and they talk. And there was a question that there was a pressure that India should accept the proposal which has been made. I said that unlike Japan or the Pacific countries, India has got only two tsunamigenic zones which can host a tsunamigenic earthquake. And we can plant ocean bottom pressure recorders in the immediate vicinity of those zones. Another thing very important is this, that from these zones, tsunami to reach Indian coast takes almost 2 hours time, and for Java from here to Andaman Nicobar half an hour, so there is enough time. We can do that. So the question was that 180 people, and they did not accept that there are only two zones which can host tsunami earthquakes for the Indian Ocean. But fortunately, Patricio Bernal, who was chairing that committee, was a very sincere person, and he knew that if Harsh is telling something, it needs to be examined. So when the discussion was going on, he said that it is very difficult to prove what Harsh is saying is correct or not. So let's meet again after a while, and in the meantime you can generate or give information whether a tsunami has been generated in the Indian Ocean from a source other than the two which Harsh has talked about. So that meeting was over with a sort of a noting. It is important to improve the science of tsunami warning to reduce false alarms given the inordinate inconvenience and disturbance to normal life caused by false alarms, especially given the high population densities and intensive operation in coastal areas and Indian Ocean. So next meeting took place on from 14th to 16th of April in Mauritius in Grand Bay, and no one was able to come up with a case of a tsunami having been generated in an area other than the two tsunami areas that we identified. So the meeting concluded, recognize a unique tectonic plate structure of the Indian Ocean, that there are primarily two tsunami sources that could affect the coastlines of Indian Ocean, namely the Indonesian tsunami zone, its extension about 400 km in length, and the Makaran source. So this was the total endorsement of what I had said in the previous meeting, and that made us happy and welcomed the plans to come up with the tsunami warning system for the other countries. So this gave a lot of confidence of Government of India in our Ministry of Ocean Development at that time, and the total responsibility was given to us. And we started working on the basic requirements for this thing, and that included a near real-time determination of earthquake parameters in the 2 tsunami zones, establishment of the comprehensive real-time ocean observation system. So, if you plant the ocean bottom pressure recorders in the immediate vicinity of these tsunami zones, that an earthquake has occurred is known within a minute. The magnitude is known. Whether it has generated a tsunami or not is not known till the tsunami generated by these earthquake reaches a tide gauge, which may be very far off. But when you plant these ocean bottom pressure recorders in the immediate vicinity of that tsunami zone, then what happens actually, Preet Kaur, that there are a lot of waves in the ocean, but these waves die in amplitude exponentially with depth. At a depth of 2 kilometers or so, the sea is very quiet. But in the tsunami, the entire ocean is moving. So, if you plant the ocean bottom pressure recorders in the immediate vicinity of the tsunami zones, earthquake has occurred, then we can get a signal from them whether a tsunami has been generated or not, and that becomes a basis of forming advisory. And then, of course, you have to compute the models, numerical models, how much time the tsunami will try to reach if it is generated at a specific place. So, there was a lot of computation done. So, we made blocks of 50 kilometer each on the entire belt, and there was permutation combination. Once you know the earthquake, the magnitude earthquake, you can put 6-7 blocks together, and the results are available, that at what time tsunami reach at what time place and what will be the amplitude. So, this was all completed in about 25 months time, and this is a scene which shows, this was the most important thing, it was the planting of the ocean bottom pressure recorders, all done indigenously. So, this shows the deployment of the ocean bottom pressure recorders, real time. These are all pressure recorders here and in the Makaran coast zone. Another very important thing is this, that you can tell that what will be the amplitude of a tsunami when it reaches the coast, but how much will it inundate? That becomes a very important issue. For that, it is necessary to know the near coast bathymetry and near shore on the shore side, that what are the heights, etc., topography. So, bathymetry and topography should be known. So, if you know the topography and bathymetry precisely, so for that reason the entire 7,000 kilometer of the Indian coast was searched, and we knew the bathymetry and topography. So, we knew at every place that if the height of the tsunami is so much, how much will be the inundation, which will be the areas to be impacted. So, this whole thing was completed, and this is a model for operation forecasting, and I am not going to go to the details. It is a very detailed work where we have taken this magnitude, as I said, and we had computed that if an earthquake occurs at a specific place and it is of a specific magnitude, then how the tsunami will be generated and how far it will go and when it will reach. On September 12, 2007, we had a magnitude 8.4 earthquake, which occurred at 4.5 degrees south and 101 degrees east latitude and longitude, and it was large enough to generate a tsunami. And we issued a forecast for the tsunami, telling that there is no evacuation, there was only an alert for Andaman Nicobar Islands, and this bulletin was issued. And these are the recordings at, these are the estimated time arrival around the entire Indian Ocean rim countries. So, I am giving you an example of only 6-7 of them, and it gives the time, estimated time of arrival and height of water, and 1754 arrive, height of water was 60 centimeter. So, like this our estimates were reasonably all right. So, that gave us the beginning of tsunami warning system. It was set up in around 28 months time and it was functional. And then of course, real time seismic monitoring started. We now get data from about 300 stations. And here are some examples. For example, this 6 April 2010 tsunami, based on this we said there is no tsunami threat. Pacific Tsunami Warning System issued watch for the Indonesian, later cancelled. So, things like that happened, but people had started believing in what was being told by us, and this kept on repeating all the time. Now let me take you to Tohoku, 2011. 11th March 2011, Tohoku earthquake occurred. This was a magnitude 9 earthquake. And the interesting part is that the Fukushima nuclear power plant, which got affected by this earthquake, was built somewhere in early 60s. By that time, the hypothesis of plate tectonics was not established. So the fault on which this earthquake occurred was estimated to have a magnitude 8 earthquake only. And it was later we found that it is capable of hosting a magnitude 9 earthquake. Anyway, so this was a huge earthquake. The peak accelerations were 3G. Gagan, can you believe acceleration of 3G? There was a Chandler wobble set up, and there were 20-kilometer radius around Fukushima was evacuated and things like that. There were about 16,000 deaths, 6,000 injured and 4,000 missing. Buildings collapsed. Japanese Prime Minister Naoto Kan said, in 65 years after the end of World War II, this is the toughest and the most difficult crisis for Japan. About 4.4 million households were without electricity, about 1.5 million without water, and it costed Japan $250 billion. That was the time that I was the president of Asia Oceania Geoscience Society. So that tsunami occurred on 11th. So I wrote a letter to all my Japanese friends, there were 200, that we at AOGS are indeed very sorry to learn about the devastation by the 11th March 8.8 earthquake. At that time magnitude was 8.89, but later it was upgraded to 9. That has caused widespread damage to loss and human lives in Sindh and nearby region. Japan is the most advanced country in the world as far as the earthquake research is concerned. We are conscious that the tragedy would have been several-fold more severe, but for the scientific and technological interventions and implementations of defensive mechanisms by Japanese scientists, engineers and administration. We hope that you and your families are safe and wish Japan a quick recovery. This went to about 200 people and responses started coming immediately. This gentleman, Minaro Kusakabe, wrote on 13th March itself, Dear Dr. Harshgupta, President AOGS, thank you for the note and your kind words. It was indeed a big disaster, the biggest we ever experienced. I hope people of the devastated regions relieve in a time. But the disaster looks so serious. Personally, I am okay and I am looking forward to seeing you in Taipei. The next meeting was in Taipei, so we would meet there. One reply came almost after 10 days on 22nd of March. Dear Dr. Harshgupta, thank you for your kind message. Unfortunately, many people were gone and a few members of my colleagues' family were included in them. A half of my city, he is at next to Sendai, was swept away by tsunami, and many my friends lost their business, houses. The tsunami came to around 500 meters of my house, but my house is built on a small hill and my family are fortunately all safe. Today, I got the internet connection, writing this email to you. Apologies for my late response and appreciate for your kindness. I spent 10 days without internet, alcohol and coffee. Every day, my family went to refuge to clean up the refuge. Every day, my family have hot supper together. Every day, my family slept at 8 p.m. and got up at 5 a.m. The earthquake and tsunami was a sad disaster, but family were experiencing an invaluable time. So this is the Japanese spirit of facing the adversaries. This is just a diagram to show you that how earthquakes release energy. This is the case of lowermost is the Sumatra earthquake. The earthquake continued for almost 550 seconds. So energy was released about 550 seconds and the rupture continued for about 1500 kilometers. As against that, the Tohoku earthquake was very efficient. The total energy of magnitude 9 earthquake was released in just about 150 seconds. So these are various kinds of earthquakes and what they do. So Indian Tsunami Warning System is totally in operation. We have risk assessment, which is done by seeing the past tsunamis, etc., etc. Then we have generated very good detection, warning, and dissemination capabilities, and then of course awareness generation and response, and which is communicated to all over the world. This tsunami warning system is working 24/7, and real-time data are analyzed by sensors all over and related and dispersed to globally. You see, one of the most important things that this center is doing is training the people of the entire ocean rim countries, because countries can be divided into two categories. The countries which are close to the tsunamigenic zones, they can do something on monitoring tsunami. But the countries which are far away, they should know what to do when a tsunami advisory comes. They should know that how is their coastline, how much of that would be indented, etc., etc. So we call these people, and they are trained for the use of advisories and what all they should do. This is the INCOIS building in Hyderabad, which is hosting this tsunami warning system. And let me just spend a minute on the performance of this system since 2007. So the system has performed exceptionally well since 2007. Over this year, Indian Tsunami Early Warning System has issued bulletin for over 700 earthquakes of magnitude 6.5 and above. Because if the earthquake is less than 6.5, it will not generate a tsunami. Only 7 of these earthquakes had the possibility of generating a tsunami. Only one of these 7 earthquakes merited use of tsunami advisory. So this is in line of what was happening, because in 20th century there were only 2 tsunamis. In 21st century, one has taken place and then a small one, and a very timely and accurate advisory generated by has saved the entire Indian Ocean rim countries from the false alarms and subsequent evacuation, as had been the case before the installation of the Commission of Tsunami. So this is the most important aspect of Indian Ocean Tsunami Warning System, that it has taken away the false alarms which were issued so commonly. So in a true sense, Indian Tsunami Early Warning System has served the purpose of its creation. I must also tell you another story. This is a story about a small island in the neighborhood of Japan, and there was an island chief. We are talking of 15th or 16th century, and one year that island had a wonderful harvest. They had a lot of crops and all that, and it was a Sunday afternoon again, and all the people were rejoicing on the shore, and the chief was on the top, on the his palace was on the top of the hill, and he was seeing that all the citizens were enjoying themselves. Then he saw the sea receding, and then he realized that a tsunami is about to come. So he cannot shout, he cannot call the people back. So what he did, he set his palace on fire. So all those people saw that palace is on fire, and they were all very fond of him. So they ran to save him, and in the process saved themselves. So I would like to conclude my presentation by saying that India completed indigenously a very ambitious project to set up a state-of-art tsunami warning capability for the entire Indian Ocean warning in short time of 30 months. This was achieved by the end of August 2007 and tested by the 12th September 2007 earthquake. Over the past 17 years, the system has worked very efficiently. It is now assessed among the best in the world. With the outstanding contribution over the years, INCOIS is identified as one of the key tsunami service providers for the Indian Ocean tsunami warning and mitigation system. So this I take pride that India has achieved something which is very rare. You imagine a country where the word tsunami was not known, and they have risen indigenously to be a leader in that field. The credit goes to Ministry of Earth Sciences, particularly Indian National Center for Ocean Information Services, which is located in Hyderabad, for this extraordinary achievement. And I would like to thank all my colleagues in Department of Ocean Development, now Ministry of Earth Sciences, colleagues from several laboratories who put their best to successfully complete the task, Special thanks to Inquires responsible for maintenance of this thing, and thanks to Gagan and NCERT for this kind invitation to talk to you today. Thank you very much.
थैंक यू वेरी मच सर. हम तो खो गए थे. आपने बहुत सारी सवाल जो हमें मिले जवाब आपने दिए. उनमें से एक था कि डू ऑल अर्थक्वेक्स क्रिएट सुनामीज. आपने उसको एक्सप्लेन किया कि किस तरह से सुनामी क्रिएट होती है और 6.5 से नीचे अर्थ सुनामी का संभावना नहीं है. आपने ये भी बताया कि हिंदुस्तान में सुनामी किस तौर से आ सकती हैं, किस तौर से कहाँ क्या हो. तो इससे जुड़े हुए कुछ सवाल हैं सर. आप परमिशन दें तो मैं आपसे बात करूं.
अवश्य
सर. आपने बताया कि अर्थक्वेक्स बेस्ड सुनामीज, डू देयर आर सम अदर फैक्टर्स व्हिच कैन क्रिएट सुनामीज.
हाँ, लेकिन वो जो फैक्टर्स हैं वो उनके बारे में काफ़ी बात हो चुकी है. अब जैसे कहते हैं कि जो सी स्लाइड्स, सी के अंदर जो प्लेटफॉर्म होते हैं वो स्लाइड करें, उससे सुनामी आ सकती है और आई है
लैंडस्लाइड्स.
हाँ, उनको मैं लैंडस्लाइड नहीं बोलना चाह रहा, बिकॉज सी स्लाइड.
सी स्लाइड, यस आई अंडरस्टैंड.
सो वो उनसे सुनामी आ सकती है. मीटेओराइट इम्पैक्ट से सुनामी आ सकती है. बट ये जो है ये ऑलमोस्ट शून्य. और लैंड ये जो सी स्लाइड सुनामीज हैं उसके काफ़ी
रिकॉर्डेड हैं,
उसके रिकॉर्ड्स हैं, बट मीटेओराइट के तो बिल्कुल नहीं हैं. लेकिन जो इंडियन ओशन का जहाँ तक सवाल है, वहाँ पर अभी तक कोई ऐसा रिकॉर्ड इस्टेब्लिश नहीं हुआ है कि किसी सी स्लाइड से सुनामी आई हो. देखो, एक तो बात यह कि पूरे 20वीं सदी में, शताब्दी में से 2 ही सुनामी आई. एक तो मकरान कोस्ट से आई और एक इधर अंडमान निकोबार से आई.
जी, आपने बताया ऐसे एक और रीजन जैसे वोल्केनो इरप्शंस भी कई दफ़ा अर्थक्वेक क्रिएट करते हैं.
नहीं, वोल्केनो इरप्शंस, आई मस्ट ऐड, वोल्केनिक इरप्शन से भी सुनामी आ सकती है. और इंडियन ओशन में इस साइड में तो कोई वोल्केनो है नहीं, और जो उस साइड में है वो फिलीपींस वगैरह में जो वोल्केनोज हैं वो फिर पैसिफिक में चले जाते हैं.
अच्छा, पैसिफिक में उसका.
हाँ.
अच्छा, जैसे मैं आई एम कमिंग बैक टू द पॉइंट विच यू रेज्ड कि हमारे देश में सुनामी आ सकती है. क्या कोई ऐसा भी कोई देश है जहाँ पर कि सुनामी आने की संभावना ना के बराबर हो?
जितने भी इनलैंड कंट्रीज हैं, लैंड जहाँ पर ओशन है ही नहीं, वहाँ पर सुनामी का सवाल ही नहीं उठता.
बट देयर आर सम कंट्रीज व्हिच हैव ओशियंस व्हिच और सी अराउंड, फॉर एग्जांपल नॉर्वे.
हाँ, वहाँ पर देयर कैन बी सुनामीज, बट नहीं आती हैं, मतलब रेयर हो गया. सबसे ज़्यादा जो है वो पैसिफिक में आती हैं. पैसिफिक ओशन इज द रिंग ऑफ फायर. एंड क्योंकि और जो अर्थक्वेक तो इतने नहीं आते ना.
जी जी, हाँ.
75% तो अर्थक्वेक पैसिफिक में आ गए और 20 अल्पाइड में आ गए, तो 95% का तो हो गया हिसाब किताब.
हाँ, उस रीजन में ज़्यादा है. सर, अभी तक जैसे 9.2 का इतना मैसिव हुआ. हाँ. रफली 9 जो है 40,000 हिरोशिमा बॉम्ब के बराबर है. जी. 9.2 और ज़्यादा हुआ. हाँ. रफली से एक अंदाजे से मैंने कैलकुलेट नहीं किया, रफली 50,000 तो हुआ ही. 50,000 टाइम्स ऑफ हिरोशिमा. सबसे बड़ा रिकॉर्डेड अर्थक्वेक कौन सा है?
1955 का है चिली का अर्थक्वेक. इट वाज 9.5. 9.5
चिली वॉल्वियो वाला.
हाँ.
इसी तरह सुनामी सबसे बड़ी
सुनामी जो सबसे बड़ी है वो एक तो ये है, फिर लिस्बन की सुनामी जिसका मैंने
1755 का आपने बताया.
हाँ, वो लिस्बन. और भी सुनामी ऐसा है कि सुनामी अगर आती है और शोर पर पॉपुलेशन नहीं है तो उसका इतना प्रभाव नहीं पड़ता, जो
मालूम नहीं पड़ता.
हाँ, क्योंकि लिस्बन बहुत पॉपुलेटेड था, चेन्नई और ये सारा एरिया पॉपुलेटेड है. लेकिन कहीं ऐसी जगह सुनामी आए, अलास्का वगैरह में, तो असर होता है वहाँ पर भी. जो 1964 में भूकंप आया था,
राइट,
दैट वाज ए ह्यूज वन एंड दैट हैड क्रिएटेड 28 February 1964 Alaskan earthquake.
And so you talked about Lisbon tsunami, and coincidentally you mentioned the time was 9:30 a.m. and this 2004 tsunami was again 9:30 a.m. So was it a mere coincidence, or it has something to do with the time zone or the morning evening thing?
देखो, बात सुनो. 9:30 पर सुनामी की वेव इंडिया पहुंची. भूकंप तो 7 बजे आ गया था.
और लिस्बन में भी ऐसे ही कुछ हुआ होगा.
हाँ, लिस्बन का थोड़ा क्लोजर था.
जी तो, जी. तो बिकॉज आई वाज गूगलिंग कि जापान का तो ऐसा नहीं था, बट उसमें दिन का टाइम था.
हाँ,
वो पास है, बिल्कुल पास में ही हुआ था.
पास में ही हुआ था. सो सर आई जस्ट वांट टू आस्क यू वन मोर थिंग, कितने हमारे ऐसे लोग हैं इंडिया में जो आइलैंड्स पे रहते हैं, ट्राइबल पॉपुलेशन, और जब सुनामी आई, आई एम नॉट श्योर कि ये कितना मिथ है फैक्ट है कि एनिमल्स सब बच गए, और ट्राइबल पीपल लाइक सेंटिनलीज जो एक ऑफ कोर्स बहुत डिजर्टेड आइलैंड है, और बाकी भी, तो सर ये कैसे लोग खुद को इनसे बचा लेते हैं?
बड़ा अच्छा सवाल पूछिए प्रीत कौर, इसके बारे में मेरे को जिक्र करना चाहिए था
जी।
देखो क्या था, ये जो छोटे छोटे आइलैंड्स है ना, मैं वहाँ पे बहुत घूमा हूँ, तो वहाँ पे परमिशन भी नहीं है जाने की
जी जी।
तो वहाँ पे जो है वो अपने दे फॉलो देयर जो उनके गाय भैंस बकरी वगैरह हैं वो उनको फॉलो करते रहते हैं,
नेचर के करीब है।
तो होता क्या है कि हम जो इंसान हैं 2 पैरों पर खड़े होते हैं, तो
वो 4 पैरों पर होते हैं।
ये यहाँ पे हम ऐसे खड़े हैं, तो अगर ये ऐसे मूव करेगा वो पता नहीं लगेगा, जहाँ 3 पैर हुए पता लग गया, जहाँ 4 पैर हुए तो और ज़्यादा पता लग गया। और एक जो अर्थक्वेक की प्रेडिक्शन हुई है, हाइसिंग अर्थक्वेक की
जी,
4 फरवरी 1975 में वो आया था, और उसका फोरकास्ट का एक मेन कारण क्या था कि हाइसिंग जो है बहुत ही ठंडी जगह है, और वहाँ पर जो उनके मतलब स्नेक्स जो थे ना, दे केम आउट ऑफ देयर बरोस एंड दे वर फ्रोजन स्टिफ, क्योंकि उनको
ज़्यादा महसूस
हुआ तो वो निकल के आ गए
रेप्टाइल्स और इंसेक्ट्स को।
तो ये जो थे हमारे अंडमान निकोबार के जो ट्राइबल्स थे
जी,
इनके जो जानवर थे, जब वो सुनामी से पहले वो ऊपर को चलना शुरू हो गए, दे वॉक्ड अप द स्लोप, और उनको फॉलो करते करते ये भी ऊपर को चले गए,
तो बच गए,
बच गए।
और इसमें मैं एक और चीज़ पूछना चाहती हूँ, इससे कनेक्टेड हम देखते हैं कि जो हमारे हिली एरियाज़ हैं, कई बार बहुत ज़्यादा लैंडस्लाइड्स होते हैं, कंस्ट्रक्शन को बहुत ज़्यादा ब्लेम किया जाता है, ऐसे ओशन के पास, बीचेस के पास अब कमर्शलाइजेशन है, काफ़ी कंस्ट्रक्शन है, तो क्या वो भी इम्पैक्ट करता है?
देखो एक रूल है कि विद इन 500 मीटर्स ऑफ द हाई शोर लाइन there should be no commercial activity. This is a global rule. और वो सब जगह
वायलेट
हो रहा है,
सारा हरकतें वहीं पर होती हैं सारी।
अच्छा सर, ये जैसे हम कहते हैं कि अर्थक्वेक्स के आफ्टर इफेक्ट्स आते हैं, पी वेव्स, एस वेव्स, एटसेट्रा एटसेट्रा, तो 2 चीज़ें मैं जानना चाहता हूँ। एक तो 1755 का लिस्बन का आपने बताया, तो क्या ये अर्लीस्ट रिकॉर्डेड
नहीं, सुनामी से पहले भी रिकॉर्डेड है।
अच्छा।
1755 में क्या हुआ कि उसमें सारे क्वेश्चन वगैरह भेजे थे ना, तो उसका लोकेशन वगैरह आ गया उनको एनालाइज करके, तो सुनामी का रिकॉर्ड तो और भी पुराना जाता है।
nearly 4,000
I'll give you a book जिसमें सारा पूरा हिस्ट्री I've done that book 5-6 साल पहले।
अच्छा, अब दूसरा सवाल इसी के साथ जुड़ा हुआ सर कि नॉर्मली क्या प्रेडिक्शन है, क्योंकि सब कुछ प्रेडिक्शन के बेसिस पर, मतलब आफ्टर
देखो ऐसा है कि सुनामी इज टोटली प्रेडिक्टेड,
यस
100% प्रेडिक्शन है सुनामी का, बिकॉज सुनामी इज अ कॉन्सिक्वेंस ऑफ अर्थक्वेक। अर्थक्वेक इज नॉट प्रेडिक्टेबल, सुनामी इज प्रेडिक्टेबल कि अर्थक्वेक तो हम होने के बाद सुनामी आएगी ना, एंड देन इट टेक्स ओनली 3 or 4 minutes फॉर अस टू एस्टिमेट कि अर्थक्वेक आया, सुनामी आई कि नहीं आई।
तो नहीं, अब इसका साथ में सवाल यह है सर कि ये नॉट ओनली फॉर सुनामीज, इन अर्थक्वेक्स इन जनरल, कि हाउ लॉन्ग दे कैन रिपीट, जो कहते हैं ना आफ्टर इफेक्ट्स आ रहे हैं, अब पहले एक बार आता है, जैसे नेपाल में आया था, 2 दिन बाद फिर उससे एक दूसरा आया।
आप वो आफ्टर शॉक्स की बात कर रहे हैं?
जी सर।
सो आफ्टर शॉक्स का ऐसा है कि कोई हार्ड एंड फास्ट रूल नहीं है, बट दीज आर ऑल जियोलॉजिकली रिलेटेड इश्यूज। और सबसे बड़ा दुख की बात क्या है ना, हम जियोलॉजी पढ़ाते नहीं बच्चों को।
यस, जो अर्थ साइंस नॉट we do with the organization where we are working.
अभी भी आपको स्कूल की, मतलब जैसे आपने बायोलॉजी पढ़ाई, फिजिक्स केमिस्ट्री पढ़ाई, आप जियोलॉजी नहीं पढ़ा रहे।
स्कूल सब्जेक्ट अभी भी जियोलॉजी,
हायर स्टडीज के लिए रिजर्व
तो जो लोग हम जैसे आ गए हैं, दैट बाय चांस,
we feel pride in you sir. But now I must say that people are conscious of having, and not only in this country, outside also. We were discussing about this thing, that how the concerns related with the earth sciences in general be incorporated more in our curriculum. In days to come you will see that these are more taken care of more in school curriculum, in school education as well as in higher education. So सर बहुत अच्छा लगा, आपसे बहुत सारे सवाल आपसे हमने मालूम किए, सवालों के जवाब मिले बहुत सारी। मुझे पूरी उम्मीद है कि हमारी ऑडियंस को भी आज काफ़ी इस बारे में जानकारी प्राप्त हुई है
जी।
और आगे भी हमसे सवाल पूछ सकते हैं। साथियों, आप अपने सवाल ज़रूर पूछिए और चाहे इसी विषय से जुड़े हुए हों चाहे किसी और विषय से जुड़े हुए हों, आप हमसे सवाल ज़रूर पूछिए। वो हमें बड़ी प्रेरणा देते हैं और हम आपके पास ज़रूर वापस आते हैं और ज़रूर वापस आएंगे। थोड़ा समय लग सकता है हमें आपके प्रश्नों का उत्तर देने में, वो इसलिए नहीं कि हम उसको देख नहीं पा रहे हैं, बल्कि इसलिए कि बहुत सारी दफ़ा हम उन सवालों के जवाब नहीं जानते हैं। हम उन सवालों के जवाबों को प्राप्त करने का प्रयास करते हैं और अपने साथियों से, अपने जैसे सर जैसे हमारे सीनियर्स हैं, उन सब से हम जवाब प्राप्त करने की प्रक्रिया में रहते हैं और आपके पास फिर से आते हैं। और उसी के साथ साथ हमें विषय भी जो मिलते हैं कि आगे आने वाले इश्यूज़ किस तरह से हों। इसी तरह से आज मुझे बताने में बड़ी खुशी हो रही है कि 2025 का जो पहला हमारा प्रोग्राम है वो 3 जनवरी को है और आप ही लोगों की डिमांड पर ये प्रोग्राम है। मुझे याद है कि कई दिनों से हमारे पास एक रिक्वेस्ट आ रही थी दूसरे लोगों से कि नोबेल प्राइज़ विनर्स जो हमारे इंडिया और इंडिया ओरिजिन के हैं उनके बारे में बात की जाए। साथियों, हमने बात की थी नवंबर 12, 2021 में, 3 साल हो गए हैं, जब हमारे साथ ऑस्टिन से, यूनिवर्सिटी ऑफ टेक्सास और ऑस्टिन से सहोत्रा सरकार जुड़े थे और उन्होंने हरगोविंद खुराना के ऊपर बात की थी, हरगोविंद खुराना ए लाइफ इन साइंस, उस विषय पर बात की थी। उसी विषय से जुड़े हुए हमारे पास कई सारे कमेंट्स आए और कई सारे सजेशंस आए कि इस पर एक बार फिर से कुछ बात करें, खुराना साहब के ऊपर बात करें। तो खुराना साहब के ऊपर बात करने के विषय के साइंस इशूज़ पर बात करने के लिए हमारे साथ 3 जनवरी को उमेश वार्ष्णेय, जो कि माइक्रोबायोलॉजी और सेल बायोलॉजी विभाग भारतीय विज्ञान संस्थान इंडियन इंस्टीट्यूट ऑफ साइंस से में है, वो हमारे साथ स्टूडियो में आ रहे हैं। उमेश वार्ष्णेय जी को अभी हाल ही में विज्ञान श्री पुरस्कार प्राप्त हुआ है और वो हमारे साथ स्टूडियो में होंगे। आप हमारे साथ ज़रूर जुड़िएगा इसी समय 10 बजे रातें 3 जनवरी को। धन्यवाद।
Well, it doesn't feel like winding up the session, but we have limited time. So before I close this session, the topic of discussion today was 20 years after the great 2004 tsunami. And for this, I would like to thank both my experts, Dr. Harsh and Dr. Gagan. Thank you so much for this wonderful discussion. It was indeed quite informative and an eye-opening discussion, I must say. And now it's time for me to announce something important. Well, this is regarding an upcoming competition. So what exactly it is? The All India Children's Educational E-Content Competition is back for the year 2024-25. We invite teachers, teacher educators, students and independent educational e-content creators to submit their best e-content for the competition. For further details and the registration form, please visit the activities section of our official website www.ciet.ncert.gov.in or scan the QR code on the screen. The final date for submission is December 31st, 2024. And after this information, time for us to take a quick look at the schedule, what's all coming ahead. Well, we started the day with Yog Shakti and we are now through with our program, our special webinar series, Listening to Learn. Today was the 94th edition. And in a short while from now, you can watch another session of ours, and that will be, the topic is in front of you, for teaching learning interventions for inclusive classrooms. At 2 p.m. we will bring you a session on mathematics, followed by a session in economics at 2:30. 3 p.m. is the time for a session in Urdu, followed by a session in sciences. Then of course simultaneously you can watch our session Mano Darpan Pari Charcha. From 4 to 5 p.m. we will bring you our online training program, and this week we are talking about role of ICT in science education. It's conducted in Hindi. 5 p.m. is the time for our session Sahiyog, followed by a session on school leadership and development at 5:30. So with this, it's a wrap. This is me, Harpreet Kaur, taking leave of you, but you stay tuned for more educational programs on our various platforms. Namaskar.